Reading with your kids.
Hey, so great to see you. Come on in. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast and iTunes #1 kids and family podcast. We are so very thankful that you are part of our wonderful Reading with Your Kids family. We have a really exciting guest for you today. Her name is Ellwyn Autumn, and she is the guest of a Reading with Your Kids certified great read, Kamyla Chung in the Classroom Bully. You know, it doesn't happen often that we get the chance to make an announcement, to announce to the world that a book has been selected as a Reading with Your Kids certified great read on the same episode as we are interviewing the author, but it does happen occasionally, and it is happening today. Kamyla Chung and the Classroom Bully by Ellwyn Autumn is one of our brand new Reading with Your Kids certified great reads. Do you know that 1 out of 4 kids are bullied, and 1 out of 5 kids admit to being a bully? It's important to teach kids about the negative effects of bullying early on in their life. With the help of our Reading with Your Kids certified great read program, we are excited to bring you a perfect book that addresses bullying, friendship, kindness, and more. Kamyla Chung and the Classroom Bully by Ellwyn Autumn and illustrated by Don Tron has a powerful anti-bullying message and follows the story of Kamyla Chung, who loves going to school until a new student in her class, Nikita, begins to disrupt the classroom. It becomes difficult for Kamyla to learn and to have a great time in school, with Nikita continuing to act up. One day, both the girls get into an argument and Kamyla gets hurt. Eventually, Nikita stops coming to school, and Kamyla learns about Nikita's struggles at home and what inspired Nikita to act the way she did. Kamyla realizes that a small act of kindness, like giving Nikita a friendship, can go a long way. We really love this book, and as you know, bullying and teaching kids to be respectful is very, very close to my heart. It's been the most popular topic for my anti-bullying show, my anti-bullying educational magic show for many, many years. We strongly recommend that you check out Ellwyn Autumn's Kamyla Chung and the Classroom Bully. And if I haven't convinced you to add this brand new Reading with Your Kids certified great read to your family library, well, then you'll be convinced after you listen to the author on the podcast. Here she is, Ellwyn Autumn. Joining us on the line from one of my favorite places in the world, Philadelphia, down in Pennsylvania. She's the author of a number of great books. Today we're going to be talking about her latest book. It's called Kamyla Chung and the Classroom Bully. Please welcome to the show, Ellwyn Autumn. Ellwyn, how are you?
I'm wonderful, Jedley. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
I'm really, really happy to have you here because this is a subject that is near and dear to my heart. Ellwyn and I were talking earlier about the fact that I do educational magic shows, and the subject that schools have most often requested that I address is the subject of bullying. Now, you're a former teacher in the Philadelphia school system. Tell us first where the inspiration for this book came from. Was it an actual incident or series of incidents that you witnessed as a teacher?
There were a series of incidents that I did witness as a teacher, and then it was just a culmination of my 17 years with the district. I saw children who were put into foster care, who suffered abuse, and who suffered the effects of bullying, and I did witness some of that firsthand right in my classroom.
It is so horrible. I don't think people, hopefully they do now, because we've been talking about it. It's been the most popular show of mine since 2003, and I know folks were starting to address the issue a little bit earlier than that. But I still don't know if people really understand the weight of it. There are some incidents in some cases where the bullying is so bad that kids refuse to go to school. And I've seen this excuse me, I'm going to see if I can learn how to speak. I've seen the statistics that said that there are 160,000 kids that will not go to school every day because they are afraid of being bullied.
Exactly. And there's, I've also read that, in grades K to 12, 1 in 7 students has either bullied someone or been a victim of bullying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And about, in 2015, roughly 21% of students between the ages of 12 to 18 reported being bullied in school. So it's really, a powerful social problem. Mm-hmm. And, a lot of the school shooters have also, reported being bullied. So I think as educators, parents, even politicians, we all need to come together and find a solution rather than, attacking each other and trying to put the blame on someone else. It takes a village to raise a child.
Yeah, it certainly does. And I know because my wife is a teacher. She's a teacher in the Boston public school system, which I imagine is very similar to the Philadelphia public schools. Teachers and if you're listening out there, you may not realize that there is more and more responsibility being put on teachers. It's they're not just teaching kids how to read, write, and do arithmetic. It's, in some cases they're feeding the kids. And in the case of my wife's school, they're feeding the kids 3 meals a day. My wife is helping families get clothes and, get additional food for at home and all sorts of other services. And you're dealing with kids who are in foster care or coming from a different country. And it's incredibly tough to be a teacher.
Yeah, it is. But, it's also very rewarding because when you see the children responding to your efforts and making progress, it touches you, and it's something that you can share. Because there's so many negative things that that people say about teaching, but we also have to remember the positive stuff. Because I know I fell into that myself when I was teaching, but now that I've been removed from it, I try to there were so many wonderful children and so many wonderful parents. So we just have to try and get the balance.
Yeah. So tell us about the story in Kamyla, Chung, and the Classroom Bully.
Well, it's about a little girl named Kamyla. It's the second book in the Kamyla Chung series, and she loves school, but then there's a little girl in the class named Nikita who becomes very disruptive, and Kamyla starts to get anxious about going to school because of the hurtful behaviors. So the two girls get into a little bit of an argument, and Kamyla gets hurt, but then later on Kamyla finds out that Nikita is also struggling from different things, and when Kamyla finds out about this, she rises to the challenge to help her troubled classmate. And this is actually based on, there were a couple girls in my class a couple years ago where the one little girl was very aggressive and would be very mean to the other little girl. But the little girl who was being victimized would just forgive her and be like, okay, why don't we make cards for her? She's out sick. And I was like surprised. I'm like, wow, this one child is just so difficult and can be so hurtful, but children just can be so forgiving.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's interesting you bring up a couple of points. I think a lot of times we didn't think of girls being involved in bullying, and it took a long time for us to kind of recognize the really kind of hurtful psychological things that a lot of girls get involved with. I'm not going to play with you unless you're my best friend, or I won't. If you talk to that one, then you can't play with us, and that kind of thing. But one of the things, too, that people are noticing is that girls are becoming more and more aggressive, and there are more and more girls involving themselves in the physical kind of bullying that we had always traditionally thought of as, something that guys did.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I did witness a lot of girls getting very aggressive in my classroom, and it was surprising.
As a teacher, and I know you don't have all the answers, but were there some things that you were noticing that led you to, that you thought, well, maybe the girls are becoming more aggressive because of this or that?
I don't know if it's just because we've changed as a society. I mean, I honestly don't know. I wish I could give you a straight answer. I don't know. I mean, I've done articles on bullying. I've tried to, try to find out as much as I can about it, but I haven't come across anything that has really said why girls are becoming more aggressive. I don't know if it's because of, like, girls are more equal now, like how they're trying to, I don't know. I'm sorry, I can't answer that question.
No, well, I don't think that there is one clear answer. I think there's a lot going on, and we are changing as a society, and a lot of that change is really for the good. But there are also some things that are changing that aren't so good, with girls becoming more physically aggressive towards each other. That's certainly not a good thing.
No, it's not.
Yeah. What do you think is the, you're mentioning that kids can be really forgiving. As a teacher, in your experience, and now as a writer, what do you think that comes from? Is it something that all kids have, or is it something that kids have for a while and then they lose it as they get older, or is it something that we can teach kids?
Well, I think children are still learning, and they haven't been as jaded, as those of us who have grown up. I think that they're just positive little people who are trying to just find what's best in the world. That's another question. I'm not sure. They're just innocent little people. I mean, don't get me wrong. There were some children who would be like, I don't want to go near that person, but they would pull together. I mean, I think it's something that we can learn from children. Mm-hmm. I think as we get older and we move through the world and we see how people treat each other, we sort of lose sight of some certain things. So I think we should take a lesson from some of their innocence and openness to the world.
Yeah. I love the fact that in your story you're talking about the fact that, and we've touched on this a little bit in the podcast, is just the whole idea that, the kids who are being targeted by bullies, they're certainly victims, and or they're targets. We don't want to place them as victims, but they certainly need help. But typically the kids who are also being bullies, that aggressive behavior, a lot of time that's coming because they may be victimized, or they may be in some kind of situation where they need some help.
Yes, that's reactive bullying. There's actually different kinds. There's physical, verbal, social, relational, and reactive. And in my book, the bully in the book, she is suffering from reactive bullying, because I also touch on child abuse and foster parents in this book, which are very, very heavy topics. But like, just after all the years of teaching, there are just certain things that have to be discussed. And I'm hoping that my books will open the door for parents, teachers, and counselors just to be able to approach the conversation in a non-threatening way.
Now, I agree with you 100%. But one of the things I've encountered over the years, and it hasn't been so much, I haven't encountered it that much with the bullying program, but when I was when I was getting a lot of calls to go in and talk to kids about making healthy choices and substance abuse prevention, alcohol abuse prevention, things like that, there are a lot of parents of kids of all different ages who were like, I don't want my kid to hear about this. I don't want them to hear about drugs, and I don't want them to hear about, some people abuse alcohol, and this isn't something that they should hear when they're 6 or 8 or 10. What do you say to those parents who are, I don't want my kids they're innocent, and I don't want them to have to deal with this right now?
Well, being personally touched by family members who have OD'd on drugs and have had serious alcohol problems, personally, I've told my children about it since they were young. Mm-hmm. I felt like they needed to be aware of what's going on in the world so that they could learn how to make choices for themselves, mm-hmm. and hopefully they'd be the right choices. There's all kinds of things we have to talk to children about. There's the good touch, bad touch. We don't want to talk about that either, but in order to protect them, there's just certain things that we do have to talk about. I think it's how we approach the subject. Yeah. So that's why I'm hoping that maybe with some of the topics that I'm writing about, it'll approach it in a gentle way. Mm-hmm. And I've also made talking points that I'm going to have on my website to make things easier.
Yeah. And that's a great point, and it's something we talk about a lot here in the show, is that through books, through those topics that are they're very difficult to talk about, but by reading with our kids and reading about these different subjects with our kids, and then talking about the book, it's a way for parents to kind of get into the learning and the teaching in a kind of a backdoor way. It's like, I don't have to sit down and have, quote unquote, the talk about this or that with these kids. We can read this book and we can have fun and we can address those issues while talking about the characters in the book.
Exactly, right. And it's sort of a third person way. It's not like, is this happening to you? Mm-hmm. Or, but hopefully if it is happening to a child, the book will open up the conversation and they won't feel as threatened because they'll already have someone to relate to with the characters in the book.
Yeah. Now, as I mentioned at the outset, Kamyla, Chung and the Classroom Bully is, it's not your first book, it's your third book. Tell us about your other two books, please.
Well, my first book, Kris Kringle's Cops, The First Mission, was actually inspired by my son. When he was little, I used to tell him and his friends that I was an agent for Santa's Secret Service. So then I just came up with one of the characters named Agent 1225. And the main character is based a little bit on me and a little bit on my daughter. And my daughter, her picture is on the front cover. And then the second book, Kamyla, Chung and the Creepy Crawlies, that was the first installment in the Kamyla Chung series. And it's about a little girl who's afraid of the dark and she sees shadows and she calls them creepy crawlies. And, she asks her parents for help. They get her a nightlight, but of course that only makes things worse. So then in the end, they hire an exterminator. And when I was little, I used to see shadows on my wall, except I used to see a witch. Ooh. So, yeah. So I just thought it'd be fun, for kids who are afraid of the dark or just any type of fear. This could be, again, another conversation starter. I'm afraid of the dark. What are you afraid of? In a non-threatening way. Mm-hmm.
Now, have you had a chance to go back to the classrooms, not as a typical teacher, but as an author?
Yes. Last year was my first year not teaching as a teacher, so I did get to visit some classrooms, and it was really, really a lot of fun. And when the kids respond to the book, because in the Creepy Crawlies there's repetitive text, so after a while they start to recite it with you, and I got so excited because when I would read to my own class like Very Hungry Caterpillar or anything with repetitive text, and you knew the kids were getting it when they were reading it with you. So it was like, oh my gosh, I wrote something that these kids are reciting with me. So yeah, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, how has the transition been from classroom teacher to author? Is this something that you looked forward to? Do you miss the classroom?
I do miss the classroom. But you know what? There was just so much responsibility, and my children were getting done school, and I had always dreamed about being a writer. So it was just my husband and I made the decision that it was time for me to exit out of being formally in the classroom and pursuing my writing career.
Well, we are absolutely fortunate that you did that and you've been able to go out and make your dream come true and be an author. One of the things, you have a wonderful website. Tell folks about your website and where they can find it.
My website is ellwynautumn.com, and a good friend of my brother's is the one who built the website for me. He's doing such a good job. It's still in the process of being built, but I think he's off to a great start. It just tells about my books, and there's a blog, and on my blog I usually try to post all my events.
Great. Now, is this something? Are you working on another in the Kamyla Chung series?
Yeah, I wrote the third one, which is done, and I've been trying to write a fourth one, but I'm kind of stuck. So it's in the drawer right now. I had to put it away for a little bit, but I've got a lot of projects that I've been working on. So.
Well, that is wonderful. Well, we definitely want to encourage everybody to check out Kamyla Chung and the Classroom Bully. It's a really important book about a really serious topic, a topic that we really do need to sit down and talk to our kids about. It would be it's a wonderful way to talk to our kids, to let them know that being a bully is wrong, to let them know that if they're being hurt, it's important for them to tell someone, tell the teacher, tell me, tell your parent. And it's also important to remind the kids in the middle, the majority of kids who aren't actively being a target or actively bullying somebody else, but they're seeing it happen. It's really important to let them know that they have a responsibility to say something to a teacher, to a parent, to really to help the kids who are in that situation. Exactly, because 57% of the time when there's a witness who intervenes, the bullying will stop within 10 seconds. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And sometimes all it can take is I don't want to give away the magic words. I'll get in trouble with my magician friends. But what can a kid say if they're seeing somebody engaged in hurting somebody else? Stop. Just walk over, and they could even just take the child that's being bullied and walk in the other direction. Yep. Or, a lot of kids, I don't know, depending on what grade you're talking, a lot of them still do carry their phones even though they're not supposed to. Uh-huh. So they could take out their phone, take a picture, threaten to call someone. That would definitely, I think, stop something right away, especially when you know it's going to come back to haunt you in a video. Yeah. Yeah, and one of the great things my daughter did when she was younger, she saw somebody, there's a group of kids kind of getting ready to pounce, and she just went over to the child that was going to be targeted and said, Samantha, the principal wants to see you. Come on down. Put her arm around her shoulder and let her off just to walk down to the principal, and just got her out of the situation. Well, it was nice that your daughter was so proactive and just wasn't a bystander. Yeah, well, and I think that is something that we can all do with great resources like Kamyla, Chung, and the Classroom Bully. We can help our kids get proactive, take responsibility to get involved and make our world a better place. And you certainly have helped make the world a better place with your writing. So thank you so much for that, and thank you very much for being on the show. Oh, thank you, Jedley. It was really nice talking to you. Our guest today has been Ellwyn Autumn. Ellwyn, thanks so much. Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We welcome back Kathy McMillan. She's going to be here to tell us about her YA title, her brand new YA title called Dagger and Coin. It is a sequel to her Sword and Verse series. We want to congratulate Ellwyn Autumn again for having her book Kamyla, Chung, and the Classroom Bully named our latest Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read. If you are the author of a great children's book and would love some help to tell the world all about that book, why don't you consider having your book evaluated for our Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read program? We have assembled a panel of evaluators, their educators, their parents, their kids, and if they believe that your book is worthy of 4 or 5 out of 5 stars, then your book wins that great Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read designation. It is really, really helpful too for a book author. One of our first, in fact, I think it was the first Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read, When Durante's Father Went to Prison by Kim Ballou. That book was discovered by an association of librarians that serve at-risk kids. They discovered When Durante's Father Went to Prison through the Certified Great Read program. We know this because they contacted us to contact Kim. They wanted her permission to add her book to their list of recommended books. Talk about a great thing, huh? Like they had to ask for permission. Also, Dr. Linda Mubarak, she told us that having her book selected as a certified great read, she believed was instrumental in the fact that her book was nominated for an Henri Award in Christian literature. We would love to help your book reach all sorts of great heights that it deserves, because it is a great book. Check out all the information that you can find on our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the Certified Great Reads button up there at the top of the page in the menu. Hey, we want to thank Ellwyn Autumn for being a guest here on the show. And, of course, we want to thank you. Thank you so very much for taking the time to join us today. And, as always, thank you so very, very much for taking the time to read with your kids. I'll be looking for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.